charge thee, speak. It weighs me forth again. Stay. Speak.
I think that for me, doing this role is something very personal, and it's not the way anyone else would do it. I find it something that's like a diary or a journal.
Behold, it is not. No, it may not come to good, but break my heart, for I must hold my tongue.
There's something autobiographical in my approach to it, the way I identify with it.
Well, which in love it passing well.
In the movement, in the color of the voice.
Conception is a blessing.
In the speaking of the text and the associations of the text.
Look to it.
Am I not in the right, old Jephthah? What follows then?
It's something very personal.
Why, as by lot, God won.
I think that Shakespeare's text is this indestructible rock that you can't really destroy it. And in rethinking the text as a monologue, you try to find a device where Hamlet could speak the text.
Had I the time? Oh, I can
thought
tell
to do
you,
it as a flashback.
let it be. Wretched queen, adieu.
I begin seconds before he dies.
I'll follow thee. Follow my mother. Drink of this potion.
And I end with his last speech.
Had I but time, as this fell Sergeant Death is strict in his arrest.
It's all in a sense in his mind, so it's a kind of monologue. This 1 second before he dies, and one sees the whole play of the whole life. And one can see him seeing a situation, so we can see him in many different ways, as a child or a boy.
Call you his mouth and let him forbear reaching kisses, or pounding in your neck with his damn fingers.
Reflecting on an older person, listening to an older person, being an older person.
But lo, his sword, which was declining on the milky head of Reverend Priam, seemed in the air to stick.
Being a woman, being a man.
Rest, perturbed spirit. I have sworn it.
I think one of the big trends, I don't know, changes in Bob's work in the last 5 to 6 years has been him working on scripts by other people. So he did The King Lear in Germany with a woman playing Lear. And he did When We Did Awaken by Ibsen here.
He strapped my arms together behind my back.
Dealing with a classic fixed text. And then Danton's Death by Buchner here.
Of aristocratic flesh. From the golden treasure of the aristocracy, my voice forged the weapons that were used to annihilate them. My voice was a hurricane.
So now we have Shakespeare and Ibsen and Buchner, these great texts that he's working with. And certainly coming back to Shakespeare with the greatest text. Seems like the next door to go through.
I'll give thee this plague for thy dowry. Be thou as chaste as ice, as pure as snow. Thou shalt not escape calumny. Get thee to a nunnery, and quickly too. Farewell. Or if thy wilt needs marry, marry a fool. For wise men know well enough what monsters you make of them. Farewell.
A friend of mine in Berlin, who's a dramaturg, encouraged me to perform it.
God hath given you one face, and you make yourself another. You jig, you amble.
I couldn't really think of someone that could do the kinds of things that I wanted to do. So I decided to try to do it myself.
Go to. I'll no more on it. It hath made me mad.
Perhaps I'm too old to do it, but in this way of doing it, maybe it's okay. But I felt that it was better I do it now than later.
Pretty Ophelia. You should not have believed me.
As soon as you think of Bob Wilson returning to performing after really 20 years, at least to my knowledge, he hasn't played a part on stage for 20 years, an important part. And to come back with the part
Cherished
is very typically Bob.
It's prodigal enough. If she unmask her beauty to the moon, fear it, Ophelia. Fear it. Best safety lies in fear.
One of the great things about him is that his aim is so high.
God, my soul is full of discord and dismay. To be or not to be, that is the question. Whether it is nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take arms against a sea of troubles, and by opposing in them, to die, to sleep no more, and by a sleep to say we in the heartache and the thousand natural shocks that flesh is heir to. 'Tis a consummation devoutly to be wished, to die, to sleep perchance to dream. Ah, there's the rub.
First, I have drawings or a storyboard of what the stage looks like, so I know what the space looks like, how dense it is, or how dark it is, or how light, or whatever. Well, I made very quickly in one day a kind of sketch of an idea of what it could be, and it stuck. And I thought of other ideas, but I initially came back to the first one I had done, and this pile of rocks, it diminishes. I don't know where it came from. It was just, one day it happened. I thought of the colors, and it was mostly a black and white, and again, a formal space, and the rocks being dark. A space in back of the rocks, either blinding light or to suggest different times, darker and lighter times. And I really saw that often the piece was black on black, and sometimes more light, and other times more dark. For the queen, the dress is gold. It's almost the only color. Okay, this one I know. Get thee to why wouldst thou be a breeder of sinners for the Sunbeat magazine? Oh, I forgot I got up too soon. I read through a scene.
It was very long through the singing there.
Then put the text away and sometimes make the movements without the text. Okay. And I usually get the book of gestures and movements after the drawings.
So many journeys may the sun and moon make us again count o'er ere love be done. But woe is me, you're so sick of late, so far from fear and from your former state.
And then I began to try to put the text together.
And women fear too much, even as they love.
And I spent time working on the text alone.
Here and hence pursue me,
to find its structures and its peaks, its moments.
If once a widow, ever I be wife. Okay, let's go back.
And I began to put these two together. And I work with video so that I can see what I do. Most of the things I do in the beginning, in fact all of them are spontaneous. And I do sometimes many different things, and then I select which one I think is right by looking at the video and then working with Anne-Christine Roman.
You can also take more time ripping apart this book.
Until ultimately we find something that satisfies both of us.
I think it could be just punctuated. We could look through the text. Like
No, I don't like the way I do that.
No.
How did this work today?
It was good when you were looking up, and all alone shall live within this book. You were looking up higher, and that
We
helped.
came together, Wolfgang Wiens, who wrote this adaptation, and Bob and I, and we were reading the text. And Wolfgang had made the decision already that it would be 15 scenes. Bob was making drawings. Already there, the idea started that it would be a big pile of rocks that would diminish throughout the piece as a major scenic element.
Oh, shame! No! No! Be thy intents wicked or charitable?
And that a lot of it would be in front of a black curtain.
I will speak to thee.
So that was the first process, and a lot of then the staging or the movement happened already in this first 2 weeks or week 2 years ago. And a lot of it is still there.
I had always the set and the scenes in my mind. And I read the play about 1 month, reading it back and forth and thinking about it, trying to find out the first line. It was the heaviest thing to do.
Had I but time. Had I but time. Had I but time.
The main thing was to find texts throughout the play, which are not all original Hamlet texts, of course. There are texts by Ophelia, texts by Polonius, texts, etc., and nevertheless keep the story.
Full 30 times has Phoebus' guard gone round, Neptune's salt wash and Tellus orbit ground.
And to find texts which he could speak as Hamlet, which are originally not his own texts.
1230s beam. Since love our heart and hymen did our hands unite, commutual in most sacred bands.
This was the main thing, and it's a mixture. Some lines are from scene 5 of the 4th act and added in the scene of the 2nd act, etc. It's a complete mixture of text.
So far from cheer and from your former state, and women fear too much, even as they love. Oh, confound the rest! Such love must needs be treason in my breast. And second husband let me be accursed, none wed the second, but who killed the first.
I think Bob loves this play. I think he loves Shakespeare. His video piece, you know, The Death of King Lear, juxtaposes him as a performer with Gielgud doing a very kind of round and old Vic sort of, you know, delivery.
How?
And he cross-cuts between the two in a wonderful fashion.
Had I your tongues and eyes, I'd use them so that heaven's vault should crack.
Soft
now to my mother.
Bob has the right idea, I think, in taking the play as raw material.
Not unnatural. I will speak daggers to her.
As grist for his own mill.
Daggers to her. Use none.
And setting up a conversation with the play.
None. My tongue and soul in this be hypocrites. How in my words somever she be shent, to give them seals never.
Never.
And standing in a contentious relationship to the play.
Soft. Behold. Who's there?
I think it's fine that he pulls the play kind of kicking and screaming into his own aesthetic. Shakespeare, I think, would love that.
My work is primarily known as visual theater, especially in the United States, because they haven't seen the work that I've done, the great body of the work I've done in the last years in Europe, which has been more involved with literature.
Now, might I do it, Pat? Now, he is a-praying.
My background is architecture and painting. And as a visual artist, you now have to concentrate on a great text.
A second time I killed my husband dead when second husband kisses me in bed.
The text is very well known. To learn that, to try to master it, I don't know if I'm going to be capable of doing it, but that was the challenge.
The instances that second marriage move are base respects of thrift.
To have it stick and to get free with it. It was a kind of contradiction from, say, the work I was doing in the 70s, but it was hap-hat, hat, hat-up-hat, hap-hat, hat-up-hat, hat-hap. Was something very abstract, like concrete poetry text. The patio play I did. I was sitting on my patio. This guy appeared. I thought I was hallucinating. I was walking in an alley. You look strange to me. Whatever, it was a text like that. This is something completely different. I think that I work in the Far East, in the Middle East, and throughout Europe, Latin America, has all influenced the work I'm doing today, I think. I've learned the Japanese theater
Please, the thing
about gestures,
wherein I'll catch the conscience of the king.
the Chinese opera, Peking opera, gestures, movements of eyes, Indonesian theater. I think that it brings together many things that I've encountered in these 30 years I've been working.
Mother! Mother! And let me wring your heart for
His
so
way
I
of
shall
performing
be made
is
a
very much
penetrable
movement-oriented. It's very strong, an expression through poses, through gestures.
blind. Eyes without feeling, feeling without sight.
And he's looking at things differently than other people.
Sands all are but a sickly part of one.
Usually in theater, the first moment or the first idea comes through the text, through the meaning of the text.
Oh, shame!
He would approach from a different side.
Where's thy blush? Where's thy what? Oh! Is it the king?
He would go for a general knowing of the text and then absorb it
Let me try.
and turn it into a movement or a gesture that would tell more.
So is he lit?
A little more like a painter. Like if a painter would draw Hamlet, he would use colors and lines and movements on paper or canvas.
Could not so mope. Oh, shame! Where's thy blush? Where's thy blush? Where's thy what? Oh.
And he does a little bit of that with his body or with his interpretation.
How now? Dead.
So, okay. I think the challenge for me is to see if I can speak this text, if I could learn it, that I can apply the different techniques that I've developed with other actors, a strong sense of movement.
And let me wring your heart, for so I shall, if it be made of penetrable stuff.
And how movement can be counter to the text.
Hath cozened you to hoodman's blind, eyes without feeling,
Can be something
feeling
separate,
without sight,
but hopefully can reinforce it.
without hands or eyes, smelling sand.
The piece has, as it's developing, an enormous range, emotional range. Some things very exaggerated.
Dead! Dead!
Some things very coolly spoken.
Wretched, rash, intruding fool, farewell. Dead! 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 Dead!
Some things with movements that are very broad, very expressive.
Thou wretched rash, intruding fool, farewell.
And other movements are less so.
I took thee for thy better. Take thy fortune.
It's a form of construction.
I finds to be too busy is some danger.
It's been a challenge for me to see if I can learn this text and do these movements at the same time.
A bloody deed, almost as bad, good mother, as kill a king and marry with his brother. Good night, but go not to my uncle's bed.
We don't talk much about what it means and why this is the way it is.
Sweet, leave me here a while. My spirits grow dull, and fain I would beguile the tedious day with sleep.
But it's just in the working process.
And she should be strong after that. Now, if he's very dreamy.
One detail just comes to the other.
Sleep rock thy brain. Sleep rock thy brain. And never come mischance between us twain. I still feel so awkward.
In the Ophelia scene, when he is, what a piece of work is man, and he comes forward and then he would touch something. And he's very, very interior in this part of the text. What is man but a quintessence of dust?
What is this quintessence of dust?
And I'm never quite sure what he's thinking. And I'm always curious about what he's thinking. You won't tell me, I won't ask him. And I just hope that the audience feels the same way.
Right. Because I'm curious.
That there's this mystery, and it's a whole history of a person in the background. It's his history, his memories, and also the ones that he thinks Hamlet and Ophelia might have had.
In fact, it's much stronger.
So it's very rich in the subtext or in what's in the back of his head.
And for your part, Ophelia?
Going into the actor's scene, he has these two white balls. It's very much like it was when it was silent, the movements. He sat up, he turns around, he takes these balls and he carries them over to the rocks.
It was as I received it in an excellent play. One
He
speech
sits
in it I
down.
chiefly loved, let me see, let me see. It begins with Pyrrhus.
He puts them to his eyes.
The rugged Pyrrhus
And
couched in the ominous
all of that
forest.
very much was there before we even spoke the text to it.
Eyes like carbuncles.
And it has a strange connection now. And now, I mean, after seeing it so many times now in rehearsal, I don't even question it anymore. And I don't also ask what it means, because it seems right.
I heard a speech once, but it was never acted. Or if it was, not above once. For the play I remembered, Please Not the Million, 'twas caviar to the general. But it was, as I received it, an excellent play. One speech in it I chiefly loved. Let me see, let me see. It begins with Pyrrhus. The rugged Pyrrhus couched in the ominous horse, and oversized with coagulate gore, with eyes like carbuncles.
Just now beginning to get a sense of the overall rhythm, how to place the emotion, how to distance myself with the emotion, how to speak with the audience and not at them. Right now, it's still a struggle because I haven't completely learned it. It's not in my body yet.
Yeah, but this would be better if it's over here.
For me, doing the text,
It's a long line.
the movement, looking for the lights, the counting of the numbers, it must be all inside me.
Confederate season, else no creature seeing. Thou mixture rank of midnight weeds collected.
Thou mixture rank of midnight weeds collected.
My work is very technical, and that's why it takes 15 or 20 performances to get free in the work. I've been working on it for 2 years, but I just now have the opportunity to put everything together with light, with makeup, sound, everything.
And there's darker. You want to do a sound check?
Had I the time, had I the time. Oh, I can tell you, but let it be. Wretched queen, adieu. Begin, murderer, begin!
He allows space for the sound.
Drugs fit and time agreeing.
He gives the composer the freedom to play with sound and music on the side of the other elements of the show.
Midnight weeds collected with Tete's ban, thrice blasted, thrice infected.
So I can invent or create whatever I come up with in the first place. But in the way of creating, I mean, that's a very important difference.
His name's Gonzago. The story's extant.
And it's very much fun to work that way. For any reason, I seem to hear left. Bob's style in working is to creating the piece during the rehearsal period. And also, besides his visual sketches, that's the only thing usually that's there in advance, because he starts from the image when he works. All the other things more or less become done during the rehearsals. Yeah, just start on the top. My basic idea was to create a structure that makes it interesting and not too direct to what is happening. Well, we decide about the amount of reverb, but I feel like it should have a little bit more. Play the horn again. So to get another layer of information besides the already existing text and the visual information. About, yeah. I have to see when Bob is there. I mean, it's a little hard to say without the text.
Follow my mother. Drink of this potion.
I have some moments which are very close to the dramatic impact of the piece.
Oh, cursed spite! That ever I was born to set it right.
And some are very far away from it.
That he is mad. 'Tis true. 'Tis pity.
And not only one image that's going on for the whole piece.
Let the door be locked.
It changes. There are scenes where the music, for example, gets very upbeat and funny, which not necessarily goes in correlation to what the piece is. And Bob's reaction to it is very interesting because then he gets funny too. So there is one scene, for example, that is, I think, very funny, although it's not necessarily supposed to be funny from the original. And to me, that is one of the interesting sections where you suddenly have the possibility to make an originally tragic text to give it some lightness. I try to just make some little melodies that are serious enough, but hopefully not too heavy to carry along.
I think that humor is necessary in all works. So I think that in all tragedy must be comedy, and I think it is there in Shakespeare.
No hat.
Shakespeare's full of reasons, ideas. Humor's always there.
'Tis true. 'Tis pity.
Must be there.
'Tis true.
Otherwise, don't do it.
Readiness is all.
Hamlet is such a famous text. So it's not so much about learning what is said in the text.
And mighty, you shall know I am set naked on your kingdom.
You can also relax and don't have to listen to the words all the time as information.
When I shall, first asking your pardon thereunto, recount.
But you can listen to the words as sound and as part of the musical landscape.
Rosencrantz and Guildenstern hold their own course for England. Hamlet. Come. Begin!
You allow yourself to not only listen to the text, but also to look at the images and maybe listen to music and sound.
The drink. The drink. Oh, villainy. Ho! Let the door be locked.
The idea for the silhouette at the beginning of this piece was talked about very, very early. It would be a silhouette that would resolve into some kind of evening look. And it's still there.
It's better with the original way you face that you make the turn this way on that middle rock, and then that's when she was coming up. And then he's in both side spots, and then it's okay. And then they don't have to hit the rocks, they don't have to hit the
a
rocks.
much more in-depth understanding of how light behaves than many other directors.
Just go through it step by step.
What I suggest they do also is to go through these changes without me.
And he conceives of the piece. From the very beginning, lighting is part of his conception of it.
I guess you have to bring it up stronger for the face.
So that lighting is not applied, is not pasted on at the end. It's really breathed into the piece from the very inception.
Is there any way to get the face stronger without getting the front of the jacket?
He's creating the movement.
Can you take the jacket off, Mark?
And at the same time, he's thinking...
Put the red light on it, let's see.
We're all thinking about the lighting.
Kill the green. 201 at the top at 30.
And any lighting ideas that arise are
better?
written down at that time.
60. So kill this and bring the middle blue to 60. Okay, good. Record.
In the rehearsal hall, we talk about the lighting, and he points out where he thinks there should be a special. Or a face or a hand should be brought into focus.
Downstage for the... there. Now hold your hand up next to it.
And then the process in the theater is that we bring up each channel, each light, each idea individually, and he himself sets the level.
Stephen, bring the 201 to 100.
He brings it up or down and mixes the background very carefully.
Yeah.
It's a very painstaking, time-consuming process.
Return it to where it was.
That's 1 and 2 up.
The kind of lighting that is more normally seen, the lights that light the actor also light the floor, they light the back wall. Here it's arranged very carefully so that the light for the actor is completely independent.
Okay, follow sponsor late. Come back.
So that you can make the performer exactly the right value in relationship to the floor, in relationship to the background.
You want to keep yourself open to the audience. I think there should be a light coming really very good on his face here.
Yeah, we have 160, 143 at full. You can bring a prop very much into prominence or let it disappear, because every object is separately and independently
Take them,
lit.
Mark, and see if you can put them in that little spot.
Which means that the angles of the light, the angle from which they're lit is very important so that the light doesn't spill on other things.
That's the glove, and that light. Okay, at 0.
His big vision of the thing, for me, always becomes clear later when I watch the previews.
Intruding fool. Farewell.
Only then do I understand what the overall line of the piece
Take thy
is.
fortune. Thy finds to be too busy is some danger. A bloody deed. A bloody deed. Almost as bad, good mother, as kill a king and marry with his brother. Good night, mother.
Ja, die Idee ist eben das Drumherum historisierende.
The idea is just that these costumes are historical.
Their defeat does by their own insinuation grow. Why they didn't make love to this employment.
Kostüm etwas
So Bob's is both historical and contemporary.
And with his head over his shoulder turned.
Das einzige historisierende Kostüm.
There's one historicizing costume that Bob wears.
I'll take the ghost word for 1,000
Where's
pounds.
thy what?
It's actually a normal suit that I have changed.
Is it the king?
Dadurch, dass Bob einmal die Hosen hochhält,
Bob holds up his pants and it becomes historical, the Renaissance silhouette. It's still a modern-day suit, but a bit altered. Broader shoulders in the vest, so it becomes Renaissance-like.
So, das sind die Hüte, die Bob trägt. Und ich habe ganz absichtlich große Renaissance-Hüte entworfen.
I purposely created big Renaissance hats for him because I think they suit him best. He appears 4 times, and in each scene he wears a different hat.
Auf jeden Fall das Königinkostüm.
For the Queen's costume, I wanted to create something that has the real historical form but remains abstract.
Ich habe diese Form von Silhouette.
I've got this type of silhouette with these various folds, and the challenge is to sew these folds such that they do what I imagine. Very geometrically sewed. It's a challenge for the tailor. Has to make the movements that he makes, and it's not so easy for Bob to wear and make work.
Das Problem, dass Bob dieses Kostüm fallen lässt auf der Bühne mit einer sehr starken Bewegung.
The problem is that Bob throws this costume on stage with a very strong movement, and it should, if possible, fall well, so that you can see the silhouette of the sleeves and the collar.
Bob hat hier einen Brief, den rausnimmt.
Bob has
Das wird
a
ein
letter.
bisschen steifer.
He takes it out.
Diese a little inside.
Not wire, but something stiff to just
a
looking
little.
that outside.
So dass man die Form besser sieht. Wie eine Blume, like flower.
To the celestial, my soul's idol, most beautified Ophelia.
For me, there are 2 pillars in the way that I have reconstructed the text. The one is the Ophelia section. And in the mother text.
Now, he is a-praying.
There are 2 columns for me, and the scenes are staged in a similar way in that they're repeats of the choreography of the stage action.
And so, he goes to heaven. And so, revenged.
And they're spoken with different colors, different moods, some more aggressively, some more exterior, some more interior, some quieter, some louder.
If thou dost marry, I'll give thee this plague for thy dowry.
A villain kills my father, and for that, I, his sole son, do this same villain sin to heaven.
Give me your pardon. Laertes.
And there are these two columns, and at the very end of the play, in the last scene, when Hamlet takes all of the clothes from the trunk.
You're wrong. But pardon it. As you are a gentleman.
The mother's dress is placed on one side of the stage. Ophelia's is on the other. So these two columns are accentuated by the draping of their clothes on either side of the stage.
Oh, thou incestuous, murderous, damned Dana!
There are many other things that he reflects on, but to me, these are the two big points that I'm working towards and out of.
Mother! Mother! Mother!
Mother, you have my father much offended.
Hamlet is a play that can be done in many different ways, and
You
that's
have
the beauty
my
of it.
father much offended.
It's a kind of prism, and in this prism, there are many reflections.
Mother, you have my father much offended. Leave wringing of your hands. Peace. Sit you down. Sit you down. Sit you down. And let me wring your heart, for so I shall, if it be made of penetrable stuff.
There are many sides to the reflection in this prism of this character.
That thus hath cozened you to hoodman's blind. Eyes without feeling, feeling without sight, ears without hands or eyes, smelling, sans all.
It's in the gesture, it's in the way he stands, the way he walks, the way he might hold his finger, or the way he can hold his finger different again.
So, mope, oh shame!
The way the space in back of him can be strong, or the space in front of him strong.
Where's thy what? Oh! Is it the king?
It's many things.
Look here. Upon this picture and on this, the counterfeit presentment of two brothers.
This production is full of contradictions.
Grace was seated on this brow. This was your husband. But look you now, what follows? Here is your husband like a mildewed ear blasting his wholesome brother. Have you eyes? Have you eyes? Have you eyes? You cannot call it love.
He can be a very elegant prince, or he can be something very ordinary.
It's humble and waits upon the judgment, and what judgment should step from this to this.
He can be a man who's decisive or indecisive.
Of an enseamed bed, stewed in corruption.
He can be a little boy. He can be an older man, intellectual, reflecting.
A king of shreds and patches. A king.
I hope that it's full of meanings and ideas, and that there's no one idea or not one interpretation.
What? Oh. Is it the king?
Someone once said that Hamlet is the only character in Shakespeare that one could imagine having written the play himself.
Now.
So it's a character that has all these possibilities in it.
Dead. Or a ducat. Dead. 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 counselor now is most still, most secret, and most grave, who was in life a foolish, prating knave.
That's why I think that the character is the most contemporary man that exists in a play, because he's so open to interpretation.
Or tame him with wondrous potency. And so, good night! Mother? Mother? Mother, for love of grace, lay not that flattering unction to your soul. Not your trespass, but my madness speaks. Confess yourself to heaven. Vent what's past, void what is to come, and do not spread the compost on the weeds to make them ranker.
Bob's the most influential theater artist we have in the second half of the 20th century. Him and Beckett are the two.
Or do by no means that I bid you do. Let the bloat king tempt you again to bed. Pinch wanton on your cheek.
So we have Bob doing the part that is the most contemporary, so open to the particular talent and eccentricity and mind that Bob has.
To ravel all this matter out. That I essentially am not in madness, but mad in craft.
Shakespeare should be full of time. It only diminishes the work to try to locate it in a specific time, place, or with specific interpretation. So I don't think you think of it necessarily being contemporary or of any period.
For this same Lord, I do repent. That heaven have pleased it so.
It could be Renaissance, but it could be the year 3000.
Punish me with this and this with me. That I must be their scourge and minister. I must be cruel, only to be kind. This bad begins, and worse remains behind.
I think in recent years that the Hamlets that I've seen that we know have been too common.
My excellent good friends, how dost thou, Guildenstern? Ah, Rosencrantz.
I think that it's been too naturalistic, too psychological, too much interpretation, too casual.
They're not near my conscience.
Implying too much meaning.
Their defeat does, by their own insinuation, grow.
Pandering to the audience.
Why, they didn't make love to this employment. 'Tis dangerous when the baser nature comes. Between the past and felled and scented points of mighty opposites.
Wanting them to understand. Speaking the text for response.
Wretched queen! Adieu! Goodbye to you. Good lady?
I think it's a play that you can get lost in, and I think it's very necessary to get lost.
Farewell, dear mother.
I think what's very difficult for American audiences is that we are so used to television where we respond every 30 seconds or 1 minute or 2 minutes. But here I don't want that. I want to be able to get lost in this work.
Of water hast thou for Ophelia. Therefore I forbid my tears.
All of the theater I see, I hate to say it, but I see no exception in recent years. They're afraid of losing the audience. Lose the audience. Let them get lost. It's okay.
To the celestial, and my soul's idol, most beautified Ophelia. Doubt thou the stars are fire? Doubt that the sun doth move? Doubt truth to be a liar? But never doubt I love. Oh dear. Ophelia.
I am ill at these numbers. I have not art to reckon my groans, but that I love thee best, O most best, believe it. Adieu. Thine evermore, most dear lady, whilst this machine is to him. Hamlet.
It's true that all theater should be entertaining, but I think entertaining in the sense that we have to respond or laugh or cry every minute or second is, if all theater is that way, something is wrong. For me, doing this role is something very personal. I think that everyone has to find his own way of doing it, and this has been mine.
Oh God, what a wounded name shall live behind me, of carnal, bloody, and unnatural acts, of accidental judgment, casual slaughters, of deaths put on by cunning, and forced cause, and in this upshot, purposes mistook, fallen on the inventors' heads. All this could I, had I but time, as this fell Sergeant Death is strict in his arrest. Oh, I could tell you, but let it be. The rest is silence. Come, some music.